to address the board on any subject matter that is within CLERB's jurisdiction, but not an item on today's open session agenda. Each speaker will be limited to 2 minutes. Nice, you have the speakers that were submitted to us.
Yes, so first we will call the first of the requesters. I will call first Paulo Lacerda.
2 minutes.
My name is Paloma Serna, the mother of Elisa Serna, who died in custody on November 11, 2019 by medical neglect. I am with Saving Lives in Custody, California, North County Equity and Justice Coalition. Last night, San Diego logged its ninth in custody death of 2025. A person was found unresponsive in a holding cell and did not survive. This wasn't a violent crime scene, it was a county jail. Families shouldn't have to wake up to another obituary from a place that claims to provide care. On Tuesday, September 30th, the Board of Supervisors finally gave CLERB what families have begged for authority to investigate role of jail medical providers in custody death. Tonight, I am asking you to use that power immediately on this case and every case going forward. Here are some concrete steps: immediate preservation, fixed cameras, body worn cameras, cell check, observation logs, holding cell roster, watch commander logs, medical notes, and EMS 911 timestamp. Reserve everything from booking through hospital pronouncement. 10-day public timeline. Release a fractional chronologic booking time, medical screening, detox observation, decision checks, interval of first medical response, EMS arrival, hospital transfer, and pronouncement. Independent medical inquiry. Under CLERB, interview on-duty clinician under oath, review protocols for intoxication, withdrawal, monitoring, and use of holding cell, and access whether clinical standards were followed. The county told the public on Tuesday that CLERB would finally look at medical side of these deaths. Prove it. Dates, data, consequences. Starting from last night's death, we cannot accept another. We're looking into it while family plans funerals. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we will call David Settles.
Hello, CLERB. I'm David Settles, brother of Matthew Settles, who passed away in George Bailey, 2022. I think you know the story. My brother had schizophrenia, and he did not get the treatment he needed. So I'm just here to support my brother. I'm also here, to support all the impacted families, the Saving Lives in Custody campaign, the North County Equity and Justice. All these families who their family members have not gotten the medical support they needed. So I do want to thank the CLERB for supporting the, pushing the oversight of the medical staff. I think it's sorely needed. The improvements in the jail are absolutely needed, or more families will need this same day. So I'm up here just to support all these families, whether it's mental health, schizophrenia, drug abuse, and they need medical support. So please continue to push. It's vital that we get the improvements in the oversight to hold the jails and the sheriff's department accountable for the medical staff. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next I will call Brenda Settles.
Hi, I'm Brenda Settles, mother of Matthew Settles, who passed away at George Bailey in August 16, 2022. He was severely mentally ill and he needed much more care than he got. And I am so glad that the supervisors have given you permission to look into the care of people who are now in the jails. I think you can make a real difference. This is something that's unprecedented. You have an opportunity to show us that we'll be watching. So will everybody in the state, so will everybody in the nation, because you have an opportunity to do this, and it hasn't been given before. Serta told you a lot of things that you can do, and I hope that you really do take this seriously and look at that so that you can make a difference and our jails will be safe for our loved ones. Thank you.
Thank you, next I will call John Settles.
We're completing the subtle trifecta here. Hi, I think you've heard the story. My brother Matthew, as my brother and mother said beforehand. It's a sad story. And honestly, as a family, we still don't feel like we really know exactly what happened. I mean, in other meetings, I've mentioned that he received 58, he was in surgery, he had 58 stitches. We're still not clear on how that happened. So that's something where this board has an opportunity to be like, well, hey, what's up with this? You were supposed to investigate that. We as the family here, 3 years later, we still don't understand what happened and we don't know if it was a deputy, we don't know if it was a fight. It seems to us that that's been obfuscated and pushed aside. So it's just one example. Obviously, there's the other example where he was a ward of the state and the sheriffs didn't really understand that. Again, this board has an opportunity to hold the sheriffs and the people holding our loved ones in custody accountable. And that's really just something I think everyone here would like to see. That's why there are groups like North County Equity and Justice Coalition and Saving Lives in Custody California and all these impacted families. And it's why we keep coming back here, because we know that you guys take this seriously, but still, like I said, in our case, we received a report that said, oh, everything the sheriff did was okay. And to me, as a family member, as my brother, when I see that happen, I'm like, okay, where did this board go wrong? And sure, some of it might have to do with medical, but also I don't understand how someone can get 58 stitches in custody and then we as a family still can't really ascertain what's up with that. And I don't know why the board hasn't assisted to clarify that. So those are some small points in reference, but to the larger points. Thank you for your time. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you, next I will call Sandy Waddle.
Thank you, Cindy Weddle. I'm with North County Equity and Justice Coalition and Saving Lives in Custody, California. I am the mother of Saxon Rodriguez. My son died 4 years ago in Central Jail. I first want to say thank you to CLERB board members who supported this most very important healthcare oversight policy. Thank you for putting it before the Board of Supervisors to pass the vote. I wish this was in place long ago, possibly more lives protected and more answers for impacted families. It is not surprising that Kelly Martinez did not support this healthcare oversight. Shame on her. We want transparency and accountabilities for lives lost. And in no particular order, Paul Silva, Kevin Mills, Lonnie Rupert, Gilbert Gill, Omar Moreno Arroyo, Abdul Kamara, Jarrell Lacey, Matthew Settles, Raymond Vogelman, Brandon Yates, Hayden Shuck, Pedro Junior Ornelius, Eric Van Tyne, Corey Dean, Colin Lyons, Deanna Granito, Richard Woodford, Linda Bagby, Keith Bach, James Pittman, Michael Wilson, Ronnie Sandoval, Patricia Adamson, Bobby Patton, Jose Conejo, Erica Wahlberg, Elisa Serna, my beloved son, Saxon Frederick Rodriguez, and of course, this most recent death within the last 24 hours at Central Jail. May they all rest in peace and never be forgotten. And we ask you, CLERB, please hold the people responsible accountable in these deaths. Thank you.
Thank you, next we will call Yusuf Miller.
Good evening, my name is Yusef Miller, North County Equity and Justice Coalition, Saving Lives in Custody, California. And I'm so excited, and so is our team here, about the passage of the ordinance change for medical oversight for the clerk. And as all those names that was just read by our vice chair of the Saving Lives in Custody campaign, and what was said by the chair of the of Saving Lives in Custody campaign, we see that this is very needed, and it's been needed for many years, that we've been asking for many years, and thankful to Monica Montgomery Step and to the clerk for supporting such an oversight and expansion of your authority. What I think the community needs now, and before I say that, I want to say thank you also to SEIU, Local 221, for helping negotiate and with the unions of mine, and San Diego's for Justice, who are also partners, who we've all met together and worked on this issue. What the people need now, I think, is some more detail, and I want to invite the clerk and I would invite you, sir, to come out and explain your town hall. We'll set up a Zoom, we invite you to a town hall to explain to people, what is this thing that we just passed? People are calling me and they're asking, and they're calling us and they're asking, is this gonna be retroactive or not? We know the clerk has some limited narrow scope to reach back and pull things, but with this new, medical oversight, will some of these other families be involved? I've got calls from Kevin Mills' family, I get calls from several other families that are here now, and many other that can't be here. What does this mean? So I think it's time to do a nice thorough explanation of this expansion. And I also wanna say that they also need to know about these contracts with professional doctors and nurses that come in, that we're not abusing anybody's rights in the medical field, that was already planned and already put in circulation before it even got to the second read. Some false information goes out, people hear things that the worker's gonna be abused, but that's not the case.
Thank you, Ms. Alcon. Lee Lawrence.
Good evening, board members. My name is Whitney Wilson. This is the leading warrants. We wanted to introduce our program. We're from the patient advocacy program to the family service. We're a county behavioral health services contractor to provide advocacy for people receiving behavioral health services on an inpatient and residential basis. Our jurisdiction also extends to the LPS designated units at Las Colinas and Central Jail, where people on these units receiving behavioral health services can reach out to our office. We have a complaint and grievance process that we use up to 30 days, and ends in a resolution letter, which we send to the provider, to the client, and to county behavioral health services, talking about what our findings were and if there were violations of patients' rights.
And you don't know us, we've been around for a long time. We started at USD Law School, and I started there 35 years ago. And so it's the grievance process, the complaint process that we handle, administered and oversight by the county of San Diego, is very effective, very effective. I know the sheriff has their own grievance procedure, however, I have my doubts about it. So again, we're willing to collaborate and help you guys through this process. We've brought some brochures and stuff for our program, so if you wanna contact us, please do.
Thank you. Thank you, and thank you for introducing yourself. Is your name and contact information on those brochures? Okay, thank you.
This is.
Patient advocacy program, it sounds like it's operated by JFS, the Jewish Family Services.
Correct, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alcon. John Rodriguez.
Good evening, clerk. Back, I should not be here. My arrest and my citizen's arrest was never dealt with, disregarded. It's not like Sheriff Martinez don't know for the last couple months now, a whole year. But I've been ignored, so I'm not sure what we could do because the legal department still hasn't been vetted or is vetted and can't talk to me because of what they've done in my case. In the Saxon Rodriguez case. Not sure if you guys have heard anything from anybody about it, in Jujura, our liaison was gonna be placed under citizen's arrest. He told me he wasn't gonna do anything. I asked about the signature that was falsified for my certified. Or a non-existent person, they're not doing anything. So, they got a lot of problems. And I'm looking at the RICO statutes for both departments, Chula Vista and the Sheriff's Department. The level and the authority of law enforcement and officials are that high, and I've been ignored. So hopefully you guys can address some of that. I've been patiently waiting for 4 years, and I believe Mother has been waiting also. She's only been given a partial picture of what's happened in our son's case. And they got a lot of work to do. Thanks for your time.
Madam Chair, that concludes the request to speak in person. If you allow me, I can start close the online. First, I will call Leslie Crawford.
This is Leslie Crawford for Raymond Vogelman, 10-5-22. I'd like to be able to give my time to Yusuf Miller, if I may. Did you hear me?
Thank you.
Hello?
Yes, yes, Yusuf is coming forward.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yusef Miller, North County Equity and Justice Coalition, Saving Lives in Custody, California. And also for Raymond Vogelman, which name was mentioned earlier as well. His mother's calling in now the pain that they receive and still not many answers for them medically. What's going on mental health wise that are not going on with Kevin Mills' mental health, with Matthew Settles' mental health. All of these families that are looking for transparency, and this ordinance that's been passed is gonna give them that transparency. With that ordinance being passed, it's brand new, and we're thankful. It's the first in the nation, so it's actually a bravo to all of us in San Diego County, because we made history with this, and hopefully this will spread throughout the nation. But I want to warn us and keep our eyes open for any attempt to sabotage what this is going on here. And I just have this pessimism that there's gonna try to be a sabotage to get rid of this, because not everybody is happy with it. I know that the sheriff's department has said openly that she's not happy with it, and I'm not sure that NAFCAR is that happy with it, but we're not that happy with them. So it's all balanced out and equal. This sabotage, we want to keep our eyes open, and want everybody to keep their eyes open, because we cannot let this fail. It is actually one of those phrases that when people say it's too big to fail, this initiative is too big to fail. And we have to make sure it's done properly and spread throughout the nation. And lastly, I would like to say that please include in this medical oversight, compassionate releases. People go into jail and they are medically discharged and compassionate released, but were they compassionate released from an issue that happened in jail? Or is it something natural? We don't know. We need to know. If they didn't receive their proper heart medication and they had a seizure or a stroke or anything like that, please, we need to know and include compassionate releases.
Thank you. Next, I will call Deidre McCloud.
My name is Deidre McLeod, and I am a constituent of Supervisor Joel Anderson, District 2. My pronouns are she, her. Congratulations, board members and staff, for successfully shepherding an expansion of CLERB's oversight powers through the Board of Supervisors. It's been a long and difficult process, and I wrote that hopefully it will result in safer jails and fewer jail deaths, but I didn't realize the opportunity to test it would come so quickly. Nonetheless, you should all be proud of your role in making this important change happen. I want to especially thank Chair Pintar for advocating for this ordinance in the press and before the supervisors with conviction and purpose. As a person who finds it difficult to speak in public, I admire the way you handled the intricacies of this situation, always centering the need for improvement and the saving of lives. The 4-1 vote was a well-deserved win for CLERB, for impacted families, and for the people of San Diego. I'd also like to thank this board for asking the supervisors to support AB 847. It's been helpful as a San Diego resident to be able to point to the San Diego Board of Supervisors' letter of support when urging the governor to sign the bill. I hope when the State Assembly and Senate consider future legislation designed to improve law enforcement transparency and accountability, especially bills that touch so closely on citizen oversight activities, that CLERB will again urge the supervisors to weigh in. Thank you.
Thank you. I will call Dr. Fishman. Hello, can you hear me?
Good evening. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yes.
Thank you. Darwin Fishman, he, him, his. I'm calling, I want to follow up. Well, first, with Dee Dee, what she just shared. I want to also thank CLERB for your work that you've done on helping the supervisors to push the part about oversight for medical staff. That was really needed. I was hoping that you guys would do more work though, and also in terms of educating the community on why it's needed, including supervisors that were skeptical or did not understand your work and what the difference this would make. The other thing though, what I wanted to bring up and share is I wanted you guys to be, I'm sure you know this, that Sheriff Martinez in her interview, public interview, has said that some of the in-custody deaths directly or indirectly have to do with people that are saying that they don't want medical care or deny medical assistance. And if that's really an issue and it's true, then I would hope that CLERB looks into it. And if that's not accurate, that I would hope that CLERB puts out a statement. It's seems to be suggesting that the in-custody deaths, again, are directly or indirectly connected to people not wanting medical treatment and denying care. I hope that you continue to find ways, things like through town halls, going to public meetings like the supervisors and other venues to educate the community on your work. I think a lot of people, again, were surprised that this came up and then also surprised by some of the comments that the supervisor said. And that to me suggests that a lot of what impacted families have been sharing with you and coming to the meetings is you're not taking that and getting that out there and helping to get a larger microphone for that. So I hope that you find strategic ways to continue to do that and make sure people learn about your work and the new things, new issues that have come up with supervisors and their vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I will call Beverly. Can you hear us?
Yes, I would like to give my minutes to Yusuf Miller, please. Saving Lives in Custody, California. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Yusuf Miller, North County Equity and Justice Coalition, Saving Lives in Custody, California. And thank you, Beverly. And she lost her daughter-in-law, Leanna Cornell in Las Colinas. And I wanted to raise her name and bring that up. I'm gonna switch gears at this moment and talk about transparency and accountability of probation, which also falls under your jurisdiction. And we've been seeing reports from families that have young ones in these detention centers, and it is just a jungle in there. As a matter of fact, it appears that they run it like a prison. In other words, there are reports of students that have basically the keys to other students to allow them to get hygiene products, allow them to use the phone and things of this nature, which is inappropriate. It's reported to us that there are probation officers who are showing the paperwork of other kids to people to suspect that whether they're in a gang or not. and this causes violence. And we've also heard about the violence related to them showing paperwork and telling other students that other kids and youth that this person is that gang and this person is that gang. This puts our loved ones in jeopardy. It shouldn't be happening, and it's a violation of their safety and their civil rights for that matter. We know that Rabanta has seen so many errors in the civil rights that they've come to do an investigation on our detention centers, and it's according to the families that we've heard from, it is well deserved because there is a problem that we need to get to the bottom of. We see that even in the fights, we get reports that non-participating youth are also pepper sprayed. And when they're pepper sprayed, they're just allowed to remain and not even remove the pepper spray from themselves. They have to suffer the pain and continue the pain, even though they weren't even involved in the fighting. So these issues are something that we need to keep an eye on.
Thank you. Next, I will call Sabrina Woodall.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you just fine.
Hello, my name is Sabrina Weddle, Saxon Rodriguez's older sister. Saxon died for July 20th, 2021. For those of you that don't know, I would first like to start by thanking CLERB for advocating to push the Board of Supervisors to have oversight over the medical. I do want to start by saying that the death that happened on Tuesday seems like a message sent from San Diego sheriffs themselves. It seems as though every time that we make progress, there's another death in custody. I pray that the family that just suffered this loss gets answers that us families who have been advocating for change, that they get the answers that they need. I would like to say, Kelly Martinez, per usual, you suck. And of course, you wouldn't want transparency for those families who have lost their loved ones. Of course, you wouldn't want the budget to go up. That would affect your budget, right? You know, your little statues that you put outside of your building, instead of fixing intercoms, instead of giving the training that your employees need. Kelly Martinez, you suck. You literally suck. And I'll continue to say it every time I get on this meeting. I'm on Dago TV underneath the post that they just posted with bootlickers that want to bash my brother. Yes, he did the fentanyl. Yes, he was in custody, but the deputies had a sworn duty, and that was to check him at 60 minutes, but they checked him at 65 minutes and 28 seconds, costing him his life. And none of those deputies will ever be held accountable. My brother was a human being. Brian Powell, Andrew Randovich, Maxwell Wimple, Andre Wanzer, Melissa Burns, Reggie Barreto, Carrie Cavello, Reincarnation, Caitlin Hendricks, Marlene Abanza, Kelly Payne, Lenzy Santos, and Chantel Williams, the 9 nurses that were there when he died. Melissa Burns being the head bitch in charge, and she still couldn't save my brother. Caitlin Hendricks asked my brother if he needed a COVID shot the day before he died. She would have known if he was withdrawing. Rest in peace, Saxon Rodriguez. I love you.
Thank you. Next, I will call Councilman Watson.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ilka Weston. I am with Transparency and Accountability for Probation, Protecting Youth and Adults. After talking to a mother about what her son is going through in East Mesa Detention Center, every part of me felt sick to my stomach. When you go to the bathroom, not being allowed to wipe yourself and having to wait days to get toilet paper, or given two different pairs of shoes or 2 different shoes for a pair, so that one foot has to be shoved in because it's part of what they have to wear, to the point where there's bruising, cuts, blisters on one foot because it's too small. That sounds fairly intentional to me. To allow older children or older individuals who have committed murder or other crimes, even though they have their right and their day in jail as well as in the courtroom, there is no reason to mix it with a young man who did not do that. What did he do? He tried to buy food at McDonald's. And then they didn't give him his food. And an older individual came out of that McDonald's and started beating on him. And his friend helped him. Nobody should be forced into thinking they should say guilty and it will go away. That's false information. And then spending time in the detention center and going through something not like others helping people, but exactly like bullying. You gotta call me daddy if you want any time on the phone, and then I'll let you talk for 7 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That concludes the request to speak. I do have 2 comments to be read for the record if you allow me to read it. Okay, first, was submitted by Danielle Cho. I urge clerk to address ongoing duties misconduct, failure to investigate federal crimes like wire mail fraud, and patterns of procedural abuse. We need accountability, transparency, and respect for civil rights to restore public trust in law enforcement. Second statement, submitted by Tom Packard. I'm deeply disturbed by the sheriff filing lawsuit against her own contractors, organization she should be setting standards for and holding accountable. Please continue to hold her accountable for the performance of all staff under her control, and ask her staff to provide the promised briefing on CQI and provide documentation on work of the Quality Assurance Quality Improvement Committee. And that concludes these statements.
Thank you, and thank you again to all the families who continue to come and be here, to be present, and to be a voice for your loved ones. I know many of you came to the Board of Supervisors meeting to advocate for the expanded jurisdictions, so thank you for making your voices heard there as well. Say a little bit more about that during the chair's report, but since it came up so much during the public comment, I wanted to say my thank you now as well. We'll now move on to item number 4, which is approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Sorry.
Removed.
Sorry, there are 2 different, let me restate that. We have, we need approval to approve minutes from August 7th and the September 4 meetings. We must have missed that last month, so that was my mistake. So, I need approval for both of those, please. Okay, is there a second?
Second vote.
And can you call the roll, please?
Chair Pinto,
Yes.
Mr. Mendelson,
Yes.
Secretary Fasano, yes. Dr. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Federico Calderon,
Yes.
Ms. King, present, Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Yes.
Let the record show the minutes are approved.
Thank you. We'll move to item number 5. We have 2 trainings, this month. You might recall we had a quorum issue last month, so we did not get to hear from Mr. Adams. We're gonna hear first from the Executive Officer of the Civil Service Commission. We will have public comment, so after he gives his presentation, we'll go to board questions and comments, and then we will have public comments. So if you want to speak or, make a public comment about the Civil Service Commission, what you've learned during the trainings, please go ahead and submit a speaker slip now. After that, we will have a presentation from the Psychiatric Emergency Response Team, Dr. Marvin. So both of those will have public comment following the presentation. Mr. Adams, thank you for joining us.
Okay, thank you for having me. I appreciate you inviting me here to give you an overview of the Civil Service Commission. So what is the Civil Service Commission? The commission is the county's administrative appeals body for personnel matters. Our mission is to protect the merit basis of the personnel system through the commission's appellate and investigative authority. And our commission is a neutral body. We are not advocates for either police or departments. Okay. Well, our commission, next, please. The Civil Service Commission has been around for roughly 9 years. We held our first meeting in 1936. Originally, the commission had 3 members, and they had many more responsibilities than we have now. They included such things as approving job appointments, compensation, and approving all county contracts. Next. Over time, though, the commission expanded to 5 members and to 5 seats, and its focus was narrowed to be an administrative appeals body related to personnel matters. In the 1980s, the voters approved an amendment to the county charter that established the Civil Service Commission as its own department, rather than being under the administrative direction of the director of the Department of Human Resources. And that action solidified the commission's neutral stance. Next, please. So the Civil Service Commission is made up now of 5 members. Each member of the Board of Supervisors appoints 1 member, and the seat they appoint to correlates to the district that they represent. So we have in seat 1, Commissioner Rodriguez Kennedy, seat 2, Commissioner Sam McGovern, seat 3, Commissioner Kay Coleman, seat 4, Commissioner Joe Montenegro, and seat 5, Commissioner Lauren Bassett. Next, please. So the Civil Service Commission gets its authority from the county charter, specifically Article 9, which sets forth that the commission has jurisdiction over discipline of hearing appeals of discipline of county classified employees that have achieved permanent status, over appeals of selection process, complaints of discrimination in personnel matters based on non-job related factors, charges filed by a citizen against a person in the classified service, and such other matters as the civil service rules provide for. The civil service rules initially were adopted in 1936. However, since then, the rules have been amended, repealed, superseded many times. One of the more recent ones, but not the most recent, was on June 10th, 2003, as a result of a lawsuit. The Civil Service Commission adopted Rule 15, which is appeal of clerk sustained findings. So under Rule 15, when you guys sustain findings of misconduct, a peace officer may request an appeal, administrative appeal hearing with us by filing an appeal in our office within 15 days. The purpose of the hearing is to determine if the charges of misconduct were properly sustained by clerk. The commission appoints one of its members to be the hearing officer. Approximately 15 days before the hearing, clerk submits a written statement to our office that specifies the improper conduct of the peace officer and summarizes the evidence that you have in your report. Next, please. Next, please. Sorry, next, please. 1 week before the hearing, both parties submit their electronic exhibits and witness lists. The hearings are conducted here at CAC up on the 4th floor. They are closed to the public because, of course, they deal with peace officers. For purposes of this, for the administrative appeal, peace officers and clerk representatives have the following rights. 1 is to subpoena witnesses and documents. 2 is to appear personally and be represented by counsel. 3 is to present testimony and documentary evidence. And 4 is to cross-examine witnesses. Next, please. The burden of proof is on clerk to demonstrate through the preponderance of the evidence that the incident or act, which was the basis of the complaint, occurred and did constitute improper conduct. After the hearing, the hearing officer will bring a draft of their findings, conclusions, and recommendations to the full commission for consideration and approval. Once approved, the commission's decision is final. That is just a very brief overview of the commission and our authority with relation to clerk appeals. Do you have any questions?
Any clerk members have questions? I do, but I usually let my other members go first if they have. Mr. Adams, so I think you said this, but if you could just clarify, if, an officer, a law enforcement officer, appeals one of our sustained findings, for example, they bring it to the Civil Service Commission and one commissioner reviews that case, correct?
That's correct.
And then do they make a recommendation to the rest of the commission and the commission votes yes or no? Or do they have an opportunity to ask questions? What does that process look like?
They do, so, the hearing officer that is appointed, during the, hearing, the hearing officer can ask questions. So I'm not sure if that's what you meant, but after the hearing,
I'm sorry, the hearing officer is not a member of the Civil Service Commission, or is the
is
person?
a member, yes.
The person who reviewed the case, the hearing, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And so, after the hearing is concluded, the hearing officer will give a draft report to the commission in closed session that will include their findings, their conclusions, and what the recommendations are. And then in that closed session, all the other commissioners will have an opportunity to ask questions about the appeal, about certain facts. We could show them, some like video evidence if that's relevant in the closed session hearing.
So they deliberate similarly to the way that we deliberate in closed session regarding our cases.
That's correct. They don't vote in closed session, they vote in open session.
Okay, so speaking of open session, and then I'll come to you, because I do have a question, Mr. Mendelson. You said that these are, private meetings, so that means members of the public are not allowed to participate, comment, is that correct?
Well, so our hearings, because they involve peace officers, are closed to the public. Unless the peace officer were to waive that.
So there is no opportunity for the public to participate or weigh in or,
Not in the hearing itself.
okay, thank you. Mr. Mendelson?
I just have a simple question, Mr. Adamson. The peace officer has a sustained finding, has 15 days to request this appeal. How long after that typically is it? Is there any set time frame that your commission must have their hearing?
We are not bound by any set timeframes. I can tell you that it is really, just about availability. We do find it very difficult to schedule our hearings. You know, we have attorneys on both sides, the clients. We have, our staff's availability, our attorneys' availability, and our commissioners' availability. Our commissioners, just like you guys, are volunteers essentially. They don't have regular office hours. So whenever they are available, then we will conduct it.
What would be the worst case for how long somebody with one of these appellants would have to wait?
Well, we've had many situations where it has been extended, and sometimes it's at the request of the appellant. I do recall in one case where, in fact, it was a court case where one of the appellants, was pregnant and, was not able to work. So we, delayed the hearing in that case. It can be months until the hearing occurs.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
One more question. Oh, I'm sorry, no, Adele, please. It's a red light sign.
Do you publish any statistics on the results of your hearing process in terms of, I know the proceedings are confidential, but do you publish any statistics on the number of court cases that you overturn?
We don't regularly publish statistics like that. We could, or we could provide them to anybody that asks them. Actually, we get very few clerk appeals. That we did recently have 3, but I think, before that, it had probably been 5, 6, maybe 7 years since we had an actual hearing, case through the hearing. With regards to, like the results, of course, we publish our minutes, which are available on our website, so people could peruse them. And we do give quite a detailed story when we discuss our hearings, whether they be discipline hearings or clerk hearings, so that the public has a good understanding as to what happened in these cases.
Can you summarize what some of the issues are that causes the commission to overturn the court determinations?
Well, I think one thing that is different about our commission is that the appellants testify in our hearings. So we are given a side of the story, I think, that your investigators are not given. And I do understand that there is a paper process that you get information from the case officers. So I do think that there is an advantage that our commission has with that aspect, and that we are getting a more global view of the incident in question. So, but as far as, able to do something more solid than that. You know, every case is different, the facts of the cases are different, the presentation of the cases are different. So there's a lot of factors. I do think that that is a big factor in terms of how we make our decisions, is that we are able to take testimony from the appellants.
Mr. Mendelson, did you have another question?
When the peace officer testifies, can any statement he made be used against him?
In the court of law, I don't believe so.
So they have some sort of immunity.
You know, I'm not an attorney and I feel more comfortable answering this question with our attorney by my side, and I admit that I don't know for certain.
Oh, very well.
Just have one last question. You said that, the appellants, testified in your hearings, which we don't have during our deliberations.
Yes.
We are given an investigative report, we're able to review it, ask questions, watch body on camera. What about witnesses and attorneys? Do they participate in your hearing as well? So attorneys for the appellants, do they participate?
Well, they participate only in that they're representing their clients.
Correct.
They're not providing any witness testimony. Of course, they provide opening statements and closing arguments on behalf of their clients. And we do have a whole host of witnesses that were, you know, involved in the particular incident.
Witnesses do participate though in the hearing,
Yes, they do. They're called
in person or on Zoom or?
typically in person, but we can do it via Zoom.
I just wanted to clarify for the members of the public, that's not something that we are able to do in our deliberations. Go ahead, Mr. Mendelson.
When you have a witness to testify, I assume they're excluded from being present in the hearing room while the peace officer testifies or anybody else testifies.
The witnesses are only present for the time that they
But they're
are testifying. And of course, they testify under oath.
All right. Okay, I think that concludes board member questions and comments. We will go to public comments. Thank you, Todd. Thank you for being here.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thank you. First, we will call for Loma Serna.
My name is Chloe Serna, the mother of Elisa Serna, who died in custody November 11, 2019 by medical neglect by medical staff and deputies. I'm with Civil Lives in Custody California, North County Equity and Justice Coalition. Families see recurring problems with CLERB, sustained misconduct. The Civil Service Commission can later delete or dilute or overturn those findings, and the public can't track what changed or why. That lack of transparency breaks trust and blocks learning. So yes, CSC does work hand in hand with Kelly Martinez. We've seen cases where clerks sustain a forced entry violation, only to have CSC later call it unfounded on a different legal theory. We're also seeing cases where force is deemed justified, yet clerks still sustain failures to de-escalate and failures to identify under policy and procedure section 2.20. Policy is breaking even with forced passes. Those ain't one-off, that's a pattern. My ask, specific and feasible, that CSC overrides dashboard, quarterly, side by side for every case, allegation, clerk finding, CSC outcome, rationale and data. Date, 30-day corrective action plans for every sustained policy failure, with public updates on training, audits, and discipline. 3, disciplinary transparency, summarize discipline imposed after sustained policy failures. No more silence, downgrades. 4, public officer, bill of rights, timeline disclosure. When cases are told or delayed, publicly state the reason and the expected timeline, so families are left in limbo. 5, feedback after reversal. When CSC changes sustained, come to explain in public what fixes will still occur and by when. This isn't about regulating cases, it's about making a path for sustained consequence visible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I will call Yusuf Miller.
Yusuf Miller, North County Equity and Justice Coalition, Saving Lives in Custody, California. And there are some concerns with the CSC in overturning of CLERB findings. And what we want and look for is more transparency. I remember the last time we had this presentation, they spoke about the public access to some portions of it, which I was surprised to know. And there needs to be a campaign on making sure the community knows what the CSC is and what the CSC does. And we have a vested interest to know the statistics, as was mentioned earlier, how they are published and what are the numbers and percentages of overturns. I was surprised also to hear that there are not many people who actually come in and say that they have a problem with the clerk's findings are. But when they do, we wanna know why do they overturn? Because this is the body that we come to support. And if that overturn is something egregious, which we've seen many egregious complaints against deputies, even here and officers and other places, and that's why we have the post commission, the police officer standard and training, to decertify some of these people who have sustained findings of such an egregious, level. We've seen egregious levels of racism, of bigotry, of neglect, of all kinds of things, abuse. And we've seen where this has either cost lives or has not upheld the dignity of the office, let's say, dignity of the uniform. And those things need to be referred to post. I don't know if the CSC refers to post. I don't know if the clerk also refers to post. But we do know, because I also attend post, the police officer standard and training, that the complaints that come from San Diego don't get there in a timely manner. We need to look into that. Why are these complaints from our deputies, from our officers, which findings are sustained in their movement to post to decertify these officers and deputies not getting out of here in a timely manner?
Thank you. Next I will call Leslie Crawford.
Yes, may I again give my time to Yusuf Miller?
Okay.
Yeah, she's.
Thank you.
Microphone.
Yusuf Miller, North County Equity and Justice Coalition, Saving Lives in Custody, California. I suggest that of the presentations that we had here locally, I think we would all benefit from a presentation from post. We need to know, and the community needs to know. I asked the CPP, the Commission on Peace Practices, to also invite post. They haven't done it yet. Maybe it's on their calendar, I haven't checked. But it's something that the community needs to know about. We have a lack of report from the community because they believe nothing will be done if they report a bad actor that wears a uniform. But if we inform them that there are things that are taking place to rid us of officers that break the trust of the community and break the dignity of the uniform, that there's something that can happen to them. And those people meet, they meet frequently in the year, but twice a year, they come down to Southern California and have an in-person meeting, which we attend. And in that period, when they're coming down here from Sacramento, please invite them here to speak to the CLERB and tell us what they do and how complaints against deputies, once they reach the CLERB, are handled and what is that process. There's two processes. It's kind of an advisory board and an actual hearing. So we need to know what those things are, and I think that would increase the confidence of the community to report violations of their rights and violations on the streets or in jail, that there's something that will happen and there's a body that was newly appointed and designed to deal with those issues. Thank you.
Sure, that concludes. Oh, I see that there's one more requester.
Okay.
Yes, I would. My name is Ashley Turman, and I would like to give my minutes to Yusuf Miller.
Yusuf Miller, North County Equity and Justice Coalition, Saving Lives, California. And I wanted to also raise up the name of Miss Lyons, who lost her life in custody in Los Colinas jail. And this transparency for the officers who actually neglected, or deputies that actually neglected Ms. Lyons or Lisa Serna or Vianna Cornell, those, when they come to the CLERB, they need real transparency. And this is one of the families that's recent. This is family from this year. And the question comes from their family: will the CLERB reach back into their family and see what happens in this loss of life? The family today might be one of the first test cases that you guys had. The person that lost their life today, it was in custody for 2 days, arrested for in public intoxication, and on the second day, he lost his life. That will be this morning at 1:55 a.m. I think there's a test case for how this implementation is gonna actually work. But also the reach back that we had, and with these, going to find these sustained, that the deputy has broken the trust. And you find that those things are sustained, then they go to the CSC. We need the confidence that they actually look into and can express to you why they overturned your decision. And that's really critical, because it can't be just CSC, thank you, bye. I understand that they have a process. It's not just one person and just one person with a gavel, they have a process. I don't know the process, I know this one, and I know if I was on the CLERB, I would want a detailed report on why you overturned our body's findings. So in that, that's something that the community would also want to digest and see what's going on.
Thank you, Chair. That concludes the request to speak for item number 5A.
I'm gonna go a little bit out of order here though, but I think it's important because it came up a lot during this conversation. The findings are made public, correct? And the rationale for those findings are made public, even though the hearings themselves aren't, correct?
That is correct. Our reports are made public, and in fact,
On our website.
they are available through our office. And I think you have them on your website as.
I have them, but I just wanted to make people understand that they are made
Yeah,
public.
they are.
Thank you, Todd.
Thank you.
We will move on to our next presentation from this is regarding the Psychiatric Emergency Response Team, also known as PERT. Dr. Marvin. I'm sorry, I didn't get your first name, or I would have announced you fully.
I'll do that. We have a flash drive. Second.
No, this is for the city. There's probably a dozen things on there, but it should say for.
We can start introductions. I'm Dr. Mark Marvin. I'm the director of PERT, have been director for about 11 years. My background, very briefly, I've been with our parent company, CRF, which operates roughly 34 programs, behavioral health programs around the county. And currently I've been involved as a police psychologist with many different municipal and federal agencies over the years. And this is Wes Elbert.
So Wes Alberts, I'm the law enforcement community liaison for PERT. My job is to be that outreach and that connectivity to not only our 11 municipal law enforcement agencies, but our state, our federal agencies, our schools, our hospitals, whether they're psychiatric or medical. And prior to coming over here, I've been here for 6 years now in this position. I spent 30 years with San Diego Police before this, where I retired as a detective sergeant, with a significant background in crisis response and de-escalation, hostage and crisis negotiation.
Thank you, Wes. So we'll be giving a very brief kind of general presentation for roughly 10 minutes, and I think it'll be best to kind of drill down those areas of interest. So we're here for you, and we deeply appreciate you having us here. And again, thank you for your service. This is a wonderful thing you're doing. So PERT actually is going into our 30th year. We started at the grassroots level back in the mid-90s. Some concerned stakeholders, people with lived experience of serious behavioral health crisis, obviously their family members, other supports, law enforcement, concerned citizens got together and thought, geez, is there a way that we can find better ways when law enforcement gets involved with those in crisis? So from that came PERT, having licensed clinicians, partnered with officers. The entire shift is finding the persons in crisis, probably maybe having the worst day of their lives, as well as training that complements that as well. And so we'll be kind of walking through just some real basic stats and how PERT is set up. Next slide, please. So we have different patrols. So we are funded by Behavioral Health Services of San Diego County. And we have 70 clinicians that we are funded who are spread around the 11 municipal agencies, obviously including the Sheriff's Department. And they ride together the entire shift. Those assignments are determined by need for service based upon heat chart data, which in essence It happens to be calls coming into dispatch centers that appear to have a behavioral health component. In just a few minutes, I'll have Wes talk about the different roles, officer versus clinician. We currently have 5 homeless outreach teams, which are out there literally in the canyons and really trying to cultivate a trusting information, which sometimes actually takes years. We have amazingly dedicated officers along with our PERT clinicians trying to get folks connected to services. The next area of the PERT MAP multi-agency plan is a rather unique one, and I'll have Wes just kind of maybe a minute or two on that.
Yeah, so one of the things that we look at with our multi-agency plan is these threats to the community. And we're talking specifically targeted violence, mass casualty threat sorts of responses. And oftentimes what we see in these cases is there's symptomology present leading up to or during the event that is concerning. It does not mean that the person that's making the threat, expressing the threat or anything is mentally ill or dangerous. We see symptomology, depression, PTSD, psychosis, a number of different things. And what research has found is early intervention on the behavioral side can oftentimes provide better outcomes than obviously waiting until it's gone too long and it's a critical incident. But even before it turns into criminal behavior, we have options to off-ramp people who might be on a pathway to violence. So really what we've done is we've created a process for law enforcement that if they become aware of one of these concerns where there's this behavioral symptomology and there's risk, we can go out, we can help assess in that moment and maybe provide an intervention that slows things down and connects people to services before it becomes kind of criminal in nature or becomes that bigger deal. We are unique nationally in doing this. Our research is heavily borne out by Secret Service, who we have paired with on some stuff, Department of Justice, FBI, Homeland Security, and what they do.
It might surprise you to know that the main emphasis, including through the district attorney's office, is wellness rather than prosecution. And so we've had some, I would call them great saves in our local community. The fourth point here on NAMI peer liaisons. NAMI is the National Alliance on Mental Illness San Diego chapter. So we have currently 2 peers. A peer is a person with lived experience. And currently in California, you have to go through a certification. But what we found prior to having NAMI on board, that when PERT responded to people who were not connected with services in the county, roughly only 5% of them ended up following with our referrals. That's because of stigma, anosognosia, which is basically a neurological condition where one does not know that they actually have a serious behavioral health condition. But with our NAMI peers, the rate is up to close to 40% connectivity. So I'm very impressed, and it stops that revolving door. And having a peer breaks down that stigma as well. And just a couple minutes, we'll also talk about PERT training as well. Next one, please. Some stats here. This is last fiscal year. So it might surprise you, we had over 35,000 clinical opportunities during the fiscal year. Crisis intervention contacts, you can see them up there. That's when someone, maybe on their own behalf, or a family member, or maybe somebody in a Ralph's supermarket parking lot sees someone in crisis, and they'll call 911 for service. So we have a lot of those contacts. Community services contacts, you see 18,000. Those are follow-up contacts or out in the field in the midst of an assessment, talking with providers, family members, witnesses, trying to get as much information as possible. Additional notables there, Wes was talking about the MAP cases. We've actually done 600 of these cases over the last several years. 632 TerraSoft enactments. TerraSoft is a duty to protect when a clinician believes there's reasonable imminent danger to someone and potential victims. And you can see there, 632 enactments protecting almost 1,000 victims. That also enacts a 5-year firearms prohibition as well. Just throw that in there. Narcan, we used to carry 2 canisters, now we carry 4. And you can see, we believe we saved 22 people last fiscal year. We're just always ready, unfortunately, fentanyl, their opioids, it's really, really intense out there. PERT training, we had over 3,700 peace officers attend PERT training this last fiscal year. We do lots of community presentations, you can see. It's crisis stabilization units, as opposed to taking someone to a hospital to free up the EDs. There are various crisis stabilization units around the county that can actually treat someone for up to 24 hours. So we try to avoid hospitalization if it's possible, but it's the most least restrictive care that we're actually looking for. I mentioned the NAMI peers. One thing I want to stress, in case it doesn't come in questions, we're concerned, as everybody is, in custody deaths. Several years ago, I think actually it was right before COVID broke out, we met with medical staff over at the Detention Bureau, and from that, we came out with a form. So let's say if I happen to be a PERT clinician, I'm riding with my PERT officer, and for some reason there's no behavioral health service calls to respond to, the officer might get dispatched to serve a pre-existent warrant. So what we do is, if we're in the midst of that, remember the clinician is along for the ride. If I, as a clinician, kind of get a sense there's behavioral health factors, I will insert myself into that and do an assessment. And then when that person is transported to Detention Bureau, we will verbally communicate our clinical findings as well as in writing, give them our written documentation memorializing our contract. This is especially helpful for those individuals who are suicidal or may have an underlying psychosis that might not be quite apparent. And the interesting thing about it, which is quite a nice thing, is that we've had folks who have been incarcerated, as well as family members, thank us for actually identifying those concerns when they go into incarceration, because that alerts the staff immediately. And then when they're released from incarceration, hopefully they are already connected with various community resources. Maybe Wes, briefly, if you want to talk about the role of the officer versus.
So our clinicians are all licensed clinicians, so master's level or higher. We are not a entry level clinical job for people. But our clinicians are not officers. They're all backgrounded by the sheriff's department. One of the things that's really important for our clinicians is not only do they still have their HIPAA requirements, right? Their confidentiality for medical, they can only share what's reasonably necessary to intervene in an emergency. They can't just share everything that they might be aware of medically, but they're not officers. By being backgrounded though, they can have access to CLERBs. Not that they can run people, but if law enforcement's sharing information, like they've been backgrounded, they've been certified, they've done their CLERBs training, they know their confidentiality requirements for that. But they're not cops. Similarly, our cops are not clinicians. So each of them has a very specific role in what happens. When we respond to a radio call, it is not our clinician who makes that point of contact. These are people who are, as clinicians, they wear bulletproof vests, they wear a gray or light blue polo, depending on how your eyes look at color. It says CRF on the front, it's got big PERT letters on the back. They are clearly not cops. And so their role is to be there, stay safe until law enforcement renders the scene safe for them to do the assessment. And so law enforcement's role then is that initial point of contact. Now, one of the really cool things about how this might work, to give you an example though, is when law enforcement's responding to a call, especially a behavioral emergency, some kind of crisis, we call that pre-engagement time, right? This gives them the opportunity, the clinician and their officer partner, to have a discussion before they go. The officer looking at what is the criminal history, what's the access to weapons, have we been there before? The clinician looking at, have we been to this house before? Do we know who's there? What might be a diagnosis? What might be the complicating factors of that diagnosis? And the two of them, they can have a conversation where, let's just say they're responding to a home where there's some kind of volatility and the clinician becomes aware that this person hears command hallucinations.
they can start sharing with their officer, not the whole history of this person, but hey, when we go and we start engaging this person, they might have a lot of competing stimuli in their head that is complicating them hearing us. We might want to create some more distance, create some opportunity to slow things down, because they might not hear us right away. And if they're not hearing us, we don't want to immediately jump to that's resistance. That might simply be that they are not processing what they're hearing. So it provides a tremendous real opportunity to strategize how we slow this down, how we adapt our intervention to maybe provide a better outcome.
Thank you. Next slide, please. And just a few brief words about training. All of our trainings are certified by post as well as standards and training for corrections and probation. I have myself done a lot of stuff, educational projects, video projects with post over the years, and I find them quite receptive to behavioral health issues. In our trainings, obviously, we're not training officers and deputies to be clinicians, but we want them to and have more skills, more communication skills in their toolbox. I like to say that, you know, none of us are bags of symptoms or people. We have stories to tell, and we want officers, whether they're with a clinician or not, to get in there, go where that pain is. We talk about not taking a snapshot of that moment in crisis, but more of a video. What's led up to this interaction? What's happening now? And what might be possible outcomes? So it's more conversational than interrogational, because no one's ever going to say, I had a great interrogation with that deputy. But we've had people say, have written us again, say, I'm kind of surprised I had a really good conversation, you know, with that bird unit out there about what's been going on in my family. That's what we want. We want to be friendly. We want to be compassionate. We know there's many factors that get involved in interactions, but in the 30 years, there has never been one officer-involved shooting during a PERT contact. Our data also shows that, this might surprise you as well, that if someone that we are interacting with, a client in the community, becomes maybe escalated, is upset, an officer in our presence who goes hands-on, happens only about once in every 5,000 calls. So that's something we're very proud of. We keep track of the escalations, those folks in the community who are escalated, and we're just about like 99% successful because we slow things down. And these training offerings, you can see for the sheriff deputies, right out of the academy, they're getting a full day with us to really push emotional intelligence for deputies and officers to know their buttons and how they're responding to those buttons. To recognize certain signs, to know when to ask for a PERT. If they don't have a PERT unit there, you can see we also train dispatchers, same thing, when calls are coming in. Be conversational, let's focus on quality. You know, it's easy to get into quantities, the calls are stacking up, but we're not of any use, so we don't slow things down and really try to understand persons who are in really severe crisis. Our clinicians do little 5-minute briefings on certain things and related to behavioral health and lineups. We also do EMS and fire service. We'll leave it at that. That's like a general broad stroke. Thank you, and we're open to questions.
Thank you both. That was very informative. And I'm sure there are questions. Go to Dr. Brown and then to Ariana and then Mr. Ware.
First of all, I would thank you for your service, sir. I want to commend you for that. How many, the one question or the conversation I have most in communities is people don't really understand that a PERT officer can go into a scene until the scene is rendered safe or to a situation. How many PERT people do you have available to work with you? Because I don't mind if you have, but I think you can use more, quite a few more. And I don't know what we need to do to get more, because we live in a time where people could use a lot more of that type of service. And could you talk about those two?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Brown. So it's currently, we are funded for 70 clinicians. We have supervisory clinicians and team leads as well. currently we have 7 openings, it's difficult, the pay, which has increased, but a lot of people, they consider it dangerous. It's out there, you know, you're with an officer, the hours are long hours, it's a very intense job, you know, vicarious trauma. As I say, you see people in the work stage, probably their lives and family members, and it is tough. We do as much recruiting as we possibly can, and as long as I'm mentioning it, if you have, you know, someone whose license might be interested, please send them our way. Seriously, it's always an ongoing issue, like we never get enough. The background process, I think, is a fair one for the sheriff's department, but roughly half of the applicants, people that we choose, then go on and do not pass the exam for various reasons, but, you know, we have the word out there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. It was really helpful. Similar to Mr. Brown's, Dr. Brown's questions, do you have 70 clinicians for the county of San Diego serving the sheriffs and the custody?
70 for all 11 municipal agencies. I believe we have 14 that cover the sheriffs. And if I could just maybe take 20 seconds to explain that a little more. So we have a PERT coordinating council, which is made up of representatives of all the 11 municipal agencies, and we meet quarterly, and we talk about allocations of the team. So that's why the sheriff department has 14. You might have Carlsbad has maybe 1 or 2. But the other nice thing about our collaborative agreement in law enforcement here is that there's cross-jurisdictional capabilities. So let's say there's something happening in Poway, but our clinicians are tied up. Perhaps like San Diego Police Northeastern Division can go in and assist in the Poway area.
Let me touch on, let me touch on to kind of see how that breaks down. So we generally work 6 AM to midnight, 7 days a week. And so if you take that, half our clinicians work front end of the week, Wednesday or Sunday through Wednesday, the other half work Wednesday through Saturday. Wednesday gives us a common day that we can periodically down some of them to train, because ongoing training is important. But if you think about that, front and the back end of the week, 6 AM to midnight, that's at least 2 shifts. So at any given time of 70 clinicians, maybe a quarter of those are available, because obviously we work in a big shift.
We're not available.
I'm gonna pause you for just a second. I just want to remind members of the public that we do have public comment following the board questions. So please get your speaker slips in, because I don't want to be collecting speaker slips while you're talking. So sorry about that. I just wanted to make sure people got their speaker slips in. Did you have anything else for Ariana, or should we move to?
We're good. Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Ware?
No, I was actually, thank
Yeah,
you.
let me start, Mr. Ware, back to you.
In my 27 years of school safety, and also being a liaison to law enforcement for the San Diego County Office of Education, I've had the opportunity and the privilege of working with Kurt on many occasions, and actually watching them save lives of our young people. And I greatly think your service is underrated, and I know we can use more, the clinicians and the partnership we have. I really also want to thank Commissioner Albers. I've had the privilege of working with him many years. Thank you for your professionalism. Thank you for your heart and everything that you brought and bring to being a member and a partner with us over these years. Looking forward to doing some great work with you in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Dr. Brett?
No, I thought she made it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you have another question?
Yeah, I was wondering, when you talked about the handoff, when someone is going into custody, you mentioned that the verbal and the written, gets documented, right? And the handoff with the clinicians.
That is correct.
I'm just wondering how that happens with an officer that has had some sort of training. What are they being trained to do in that handoff? If they they can't diagnose or anything, but what should they be keeping in mind when they are is appealed, arrested, someone.
Yes, the method I was talking about would be an officer in tandem with a PERT clinician. So that's a clinical assessment that is made, so I don't believe officers are doing so, but actually my hope is that when they participate in our training, which they do, that a light bulb kind of pops on and they recognize behavioral health issues and they would say something. I would hope they would that they would talk to that individual about it and they would talk to medical staff at detentions.
When our clinicians do that assessment, that mental health for detentions assessment, they communicate with the jail medical staff. They don't communicate with the deputies because they have to maintain in that instance some of the confidentiality of what's going on. So it is one of those HIPAA, it is a collaborative discussion for medical care going in. It's not them telling the deputies necessarily, it's the medical staff and knowing what the appropriate housing for that should look like.
Thank you.
You have one person?
Okay, I'm gonna go to Mr. Munson, and we'll come back to you, Dr. Martin.
I believe you said that your shifts are from 6 AM to midnight. What happens in the undesirable situation? You have somebody has a severe episode at 3 o'clock in the morning.
So law enforcement will respond to that. And like Dr. Marvin said, for both the San Diego Police, San Diego Sheriffs, they all mandate, once their cadets graduate from the academy, they go into agency-specific training for a couple of weeks or more. Part of that is to go to PERT training, and for as long as I've been there and beyond, every cadet that graduates and goes to those two agencies goes to some PERT training so that they have some more understanding of how to do stuff. Now, they have to, I mean, even when we're working, we're not always available. So the reason we provide all this training is so that in those off hours, or in that instance where we're tied up or we're not available, hopefully we're giving them better tools to manage those cases, independent of us.
Dr. Brown?
Do you accept volunteers? Do you welcome people to volunteer for your program? I noticed you mentioned that you had a lot of community things. Do you have occasion for need for people to volunteer to work in person?
For volunteers, we do have, I mentioned the first coordinating council, we do have an advisory committee that meets quarterly. If anyone is interested, please reach out to me at the PERT office. We don't have volunteers on patrols because, we basically take up the officer is driving, the clinician is in the passenger seat. And if someone is being detained for further assessment at a hospital or CSU, it wouldn't be feasible. But if anyone is interested in our advisory committee, it's a very proactive, it's currently chaired by Catherine Macario, who's the CEO of NAMI San Diego.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Okay, if there are no other board questions, we'll go to members of the public comment. Thank you. Feel free to have a seat or. Thank you.
First, we will call Paloma Serna.
My name is Paloma Serna, the mother of Elisa Serna, who died November 11, 2019 by medical neglect. I am with Stabilized in Custody, California, North County Equity and Justice Coalition. This is the first time that I've heard that cadets are being trained with PERT. So why are people still dying in the jails? Too many people with mental health or substance use crisis are being taken to jail instead of care. And when they do get booked, important medical information are getting lost. That's how preventable deaths happen. PERT clinician should be in charge of where a person goes. If a clinician says hospital or crisis stabilization, don't book them into jail unless a supervisor signs a short written reason right then. When someone does end up in jail, send one standard handoff form with them so nothing gets lost. Suicide risk, withdrawal risk, current meds, timestamp notes, and first medical order. Medical staff in the jail sees them within 2 hours and checks again at 24 hours. If a check is missed, the system should alert a supervisor automatically. If there's a death or someone is bagging her after per contact, her should give the full file to clerk so they could investigate correctly. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will call Yusuf Miller.
Yusef Miller, North County Equity and Justice Coalition, Stabilizing Custody, California. And PERT is underfunded, in my opinion. We need to put our money where our heart is. We could use twice as many PERT as we have today. And there was a problem before COVID, as the gentleman brought up before, that if you brought up before COVID time, and we didn't bring up the problem, we saw a lot of deaths because we didn't have PERT clinicians. We had PERT officers, but not PERT clinicians, not enough to go around. So what do we have? We have people with badge and guns making this determination. We want the badge and the gun out of mental health, not in mental health. So for example, before COVID, we had Raul Rivera, who died in South Bay, who tried to jump off a bridge. He was talked down, but let go. And then in the same intersection, law enforcement was called the same night, and they shot him dead in the intersection. We had Earl McNeil in National City, who turned himself in, and he was on drugs at the time, and he's claimed he's gonna kill Jesus. Of course, he needs mental health help, but he didn't get that, and then he wound up dying in custody. We had Vito Vitale in Little Italy that was running around streaking with no clothes on. He was an elderly person, and they just piled onto him. People piled onto him, and he suffocated to death. We have Alfred Alongo in El Cajon, which was called for a medical 5150 call. Well, who shows up? Cowboys. Cowboys show up and they kill him right on the spot, even though he wasn't armed. And we have post-COVID, we have Patricia Addison and Ms. Bartacali, who could have used that kind of evaluation. And right after, just before COVID, we saw the district attorney put out the blueprint of mental health reform. The blueprint of mental health reform, because she said in that report that people were dying within 0 minutes of intersection with law enforcement if they had mental health problems in San Diego County. That was nuts. That was the district attorney, the blueprint of mental health reform. And from that, we got MCRT.
Well heard. Thank you.
Need more though.
Thank you. Next, we will call Elka.
Yes, hello, my name is Ilka Weston, part of North County Equity Justice Coalition, as well as TAP. So I feel like I need to turn to the gentleman and say the presentation attempt sounded like a playground. They're not even paying attention right now, because that's not how it is being taken care of. Let me talk about the Henry family. It was definitely after 6 a.m. in the morning, and guess what happened? The young man wanted help. He requested PERT. The mother got on a 911 call, said he needs PERT. They were refused. He has been in jail for 2.5 months. Let me tell you what sheriff's deputies with their 8-hour PERT training did. They showed up. They cuffed him. They threw him to the ground. They beat on him and beat on him to the point where when he went to the hospital, he had to stay there 2 days without any care. Any care. Just watch. When he entered into jail, he had to have a walker. He couldn't see out of his right eye because the socket was busted. Oh yeah, sheriff deputies and police have a lot of training. That sounds really lovely for 30 years ago of what they were presenting, but that is not addressing our concerns now. And I am very, very firm on saying that mental health and addiction are both diseases, and no officer should beat a man near to death and make his mother watch it because she's afraid he's gonna end up dead. They need to be brought to hospitals. We need a mental health hospital. And if I could get Scripps or to agree to manage it, we need to ask for the money. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, I will call Chuck Rodriguez.
wanted to speak on this issue because my experience with PERB happened on the 14th of September, 2021 and November 10th, 2021, where PERB was present at both of those incidences in Chula Vista. I was swatted. I don't know why PERB needed to be there when I was being swatted. I didn't call them, but it seemed like they were being used against me. Trying to use my mental.
Remind members of the public to direct their comments to the board, please.
Yeah, but I've been trying to get a hold of these guys. So I think you guys need to look at PERB. It can be pretty good for its purpose, but there is room for review. Like allowing a 75-year-old being handcuffed, taken to the VA. I don't think he's really much of a threat, and I know policy, but maybe some better judgment or maybe another process for that 75-year-old at the VA that I witnessed being taken like that. And why they're being present for a citizen's arrest, and I don't know, just we're here, see what you do, see if we need to lock you up instead of the suspects who are law enforcement. Oh, well, because you think you're law enforcement, or that's an impression that wants to be given. Maybe change the shirts, make sure they have the cross, the medical cross and not a badge, so that doesn't get confused. But I think the conditions need to be monitored. It's something that happened to me. That's why I'm talking about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I will call Darwin Fishman. Darwin, can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you just fine.
All right, thank you. Darwin Fishman, he, him, his, Racial Justice Coalition of San Diego. Wasn't gonna talk again, but I did want to say, because Kurt's on here, I'm on the Alternatives to Incarceration for the County of San Diego, and we can't figure out how PERT and MCRT works together. And I would love to know things like the percentage of calls that PERT gets, and then how that fits in with overall calls for mental health 5150 and law enforcement response to mental health calls in general. And then how that fits in with things like mobile crisis response team. Because at the end of the day, with funding and staffing PERT and MCRT, I'm not sure how that's done without actual data, and I'd love to know if that's available, if that's possible to get, and also if there's any vision about moving forward in terms of what do we need more of in terms of non-law enforcement response, and how do we evaluate how effective that is. That would be really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I will call Beverly.
Yes, I'm Beverly Allen Jerry with Saving Lives in Custody, California. I'd like to give my minutes to Yusuf Miller, please.
Yusuf Miller, North County Equity and Justice Coalition, Saving Lives in Custody, California. Another name I wanted to mention is Dennis Carolino. Dennis Carolino was the last, he was a death on the last rotation of the district attorney's blueprint on mental health reform discussion. And he died on the last day of that discussion. And then from there, we went into COVID. Everything started shutting down. And the thing about Dennis Carolino and his family was still here and they're traumatized from the loss of Dennis, but they aren't called law enforcement. When law enforcement arrived for a mental health issue, when law enforcement arrived, they didn't have hurt with him. She's explained all the mental health issues like this. He was dead within seconds. She explained, she took a very long time to explain. She was so brokenhearted, I believe that she died out of pain. She passed away, God rest her soul. His brother drank himself to death shortly after, out of not being there for his, he only has one brother left. Tony Carolino, he reaches out to us, he's a part of our family group as well, and he is still looking for justice and transparency for his brother that died, like I said, before COVID. And he's looking for some change, a way that, as the PERT said before, to slow things down. If it would have been slowed down, maybe Dennis Carolino would still be with us here. So we need to put our money where our heart is, and if the San Diego County Jail is the largest mental health facility in the county, then we've got our priorities all wrong. We need to put our priorities and our money into MCRT and PERT and actual clinicians and facilities outside to prevent them crossing the line to get them into law enforcement. Thank you.
Commissioner Rivera, that concludes the comments for item number 5.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mormon, and for your presentation. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We'll move to item number 6. Executive Officer's Report, Mr. Kalina, have for us tonight.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Brett Klein. I'm the Executive Officer of CLERB. My pronouns are he and his. Super excited to introduce everybody to our new Administrative Assistant, Amanda Bates, who's sitting there right next to our Chief Deputy. We're super excited to get some new people, and we also have 2 new special investigators that you will get a chance to meet tonight during closed session. They just started yesterday, so we are moving in the right direction. We just put a request in to get recruiting out for 2 more positions for data and research analyst and a public relations specialist. So we'll get a chance to meet them tonight. Let's talk about the new jurisdiction. This was approved on Tuesday by a 4-1 vote, and like the chair said, many of you that are in the audience today sat through a very long day of board of supervisors meetings because the consent calendar was at the beginning and the annual report was at the end. And it was a very long day. And so they stuck around and really advocated on behalf of the board of getting this new jurisdiction. This question been asked, according to the ordinance, this will go into effect on Halloween, October 31st. It'll be 30 days after the passage. There is a lot of things we will have to start moving on. On the medical side, administrative, we have to figure out how that best works for the funding that's gonna come to us and how we reach out to different medical experts in the different fields. This is a first of its kind, and I ask for your patience and for us to learn this process because we don't have anybody to go to and ask for advice on this. We have reached out to many different organizations already that do civilian oversight. Some do law enforcement, some have medical in prison systems. And so we will be working with them to get individuals on board that we can get these cases to. I want to remind everyone that we still will have issues with some of our medical experts, especially the local ones, because they may be conflicts of interest in cases with the county. And so we may be reaching outside of the area for some of these experts, and we are going to just work through some of those issues, make sure we get the right people for CLERB. And figure out our own internal processes on how we're going to do this. The question has come up many times. What does this mean for people that fall before October 31st of 2025? There is nothing in this new ordinance that the Board of Supervisors put forward that allows CLERB to make this jurisdiction retroactive. What I can say is, under the rules and regulations as they will be in place on October 31st, you still get 1 year to file a complaint after an incident. So you can then figure from there which individuals can then maybe come back to CLERB, but it would require a complaint in order for us to review the healthcare services. We already have jurisdiction over the peace officers and the custodial officers. For now, it'll be 12 individuals from October 31st of 2024 to October 31st of 2025. So that's what I can tell you. We know based on it, it will not be retroactive. I know the question has come up. There are very limited circumstances in which the CLERB board can accept to reopen investigations that are older than that time frame. Unfortunately, in most of those investigations that have happened prior to this 1 year, the board has had access to the medical records. And so in most of those instances, it may be difficult for us to determine that there's new evidence that would then allow the CLERB board to move forward with reopening an investigation. I believe we're gonna have to figure that out. I'm sure Ellen will be very brought in on each of these requests and maybe even you know, we might have to go outside and who knows, you know, it might be something that goes further than that, but that's what I can tell you from now, based on what's written in the ordinance. I hope that gives some guidance on that. And I will speak to one more thing that's in there, compassionate release. This might be difficult, process, because right now, there is no policy in place for the sheriff's department to keep track of individuals when they've been released on compassionate release. So, we will have to work through some of those things. Maybe there's recommendations on the board, that can be passed along to the sheriff's office, but as of right now, we will have to be working through many of those details as we go. I don't believe that number is very high on compassionate release. And so maybe we will be able to work something out with that. And then on Tuesday, the Board of Supervisors received a presentation from myself on the annual report. There really was no comments or suggestions on that. They would ask for a little bit more on the debts, but I've already had a conversation with them to let them know that we published all of our decisions. And so that information is readily available for the supervisor and their staff. And so we've directed them to those particular cases. And so that we are not publishing those details in an annual report. We're trying to stick to statistics, trends, and they really did appreciate that. I will say there was multiple questions from the community on what they felt some inconsistencies on what our number of deaths were listed in our annual report versus what the sheriffs have listed in there. It's a reminder that in custody deaths do not necessarily mean only those in detention. So for us, in these cases, with this new jurisdiction, these are in custody deaths. There can be officer involved shooting. Those numbers that were put in front of the Board of Supervisors included 11 officer involved shootings.
So out of custody.
Out of custody.
No, they'd be in
They would be in custody,
But not in
technically,
detention.
not in detention. And then there's also other issues where maybe that use of force was used to bring someone into custody, which may have resulted in death. You know, for example, there's been an individual we know that was put in a RAP device and then subsequently had a health issue and eventually passed away. That would be one of those that's not included in our in custody that you're gonna see on the sheriff's website. But technically, that's an in custody death. So that's maybe where you see some differences from the website from the sheriff versus what we listed in our report. Under that, okay. We are working very hard to get the case management system up. We had a little kickoff last week. Well, I wish I could tell you we could start soon, but we're still gonna be waiting for some time for the county to make sure that all the security measures are in place, but we are really pushing to get moving as quickly as possible. I will bring up one thing and I'll let the chief deputy just update you on the study of deaths in custody. For the board, we have a tour coming up for the youth transition campus. We can provide you with the information. It's within the next couple of weeks, so we would just ask for you to reach out to us in advance. And if we have more than a quorum, we will make sure it works out so that we can divide up and give everybody the opportunity to see the youth transition campus. Norris, would you give an update on the study?
Sure, so we have already started receiving parts of the final report from the Mountain Whisper Life for the custody deaths. Both reports, small reports, have been approved and they are working on the rest of the final product. So we are in line with our timeline. So hopefully, I would say by the end of this year or early next year, we should have the final product ready for the board and the public, of course.
Fully important to do that in 4 voice. I'm sorry.
Can you use your microphone and ask the question, because we can't hear you.
Wait.
You can ask your question, I just wanted.
I'm wondering, who are we working with to do this for?
Yeah, the question was who was the contract with?
Yeah.
That was a company called the Mountain Whisper Light. Yeah, that's who we contracted with to complete the study.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have anything else from your report, Mr. Plano? No. Any board questions for Brett before we go on? Mr. Ware?
Thank you for the report, appreciate it, appreciate your professionalism and the time and effort you bring to this. The question I have is, if I'm a member of the public who's lost a loved one in custody death, and I hear and I see the ordinance that says there's nothing in the ordinance that says clerk can review a case retroactively. What I hear is there's nothing in the ordinance that says that you can't. And so I'm going to ask the question, or I'm going to try what do I need to do to get it done. So I think we need to be very clear that this can't be done or it can be done. Yes.
Yes, so although it does not say in our rules and regulations of the date, it's in the ordinance that's prepared by the county, which we have been collaborating with since last December to marry up the ordinance with our rules and regulations that you all approved. The county is the one that approves the ordinance and presents it to the board of supervisors. Although there's no date saying you can't go back, it does say specifically in the new ordinance that this new jurisdiction starts 30 days from the date of passage. So it is set to start 30 days from Tuesday.
Thank you.
I'm gonna try and verify a little bit, and Ellen and Brett can correct me if I'm wrong. So what Brett was referring to, I think all of you know that we have automatic jurisdiction over in custody deaths. We automatically review those. You don't have to file a complaint. We automatically review those cases. However, if you are, for example, a member of a family and you have a loved one die in custody, you can file a complaint. And that can be going back. You have up to a year to file a complaint. So that's why he's saying if it's been a year, if we receive a death in custody case after October 31st, If it has not been a year yet, a family could file a complaint, even though we've already received it as a death in custody automatically. Does that make it any clearer? No. I think it would be best if we could maybe talk about it later, but you can file a complaint up to a year after an incident. Okay? Mr.
Just, I guess to clarify for me and perhaps everybody else, if there's a case that we have right now that happened before October 31st, 2025, and we, I guess the question is, are there any cases that happened in 2024 that have already been adjudicated? Okay, so.
No, there's not been a single case that would fall within that 1 year that we've even received records yet.
In that case, if there's somebody out there that has a family member that was an in custody death after 2024, October, 31st?
Yeah.
They can then file a complaint, which will now give us the jurisdiction to go back and look at the mental health, medical and mental health.
They would need to make an allegation against the healthcare provider, which is the term used in our new rules and regulations and the ordinance.
Okay, hopefully that clarifies.
Thank you, that's better than I attempted to do, so I appreciate that. Okay, if there are no other questions for Brett, we will move on to, chair's report, correct? Sorry, I lost place on my, in my chart. Yeah, good. Number 7, chair's report. I mentioned this already right after the, public comment, but as Brett mentioned, it's been a big month. We've been talking about the new jurisdiction. They took the final vote to approve our expanded, authority. For the record, CLERB voted to request the Board of Supervisors expand our jurisdiction to include medical, and remember, our original request was to include medical all the time. This proposal is different, it's for in custody only, but we took that vote back in 2021. So this was a long time coming, and we appreciate everyone continuing to advocate and continuing to speak out, because that's what got us here. We could not have achieved it without the leadership of our Board of Supervisors Vice Chair, Monica Montgomery Stepp. I was happy to have the chance last month to thank her in person, both here at the board meeting. I saw many of you here, and then I saw her again subsequently and had a chance to chat with her about it and thank her. I couldn't attend the second reading on Tuesday because I had the flu. You can kind of hear it in my voice now, but thank you all again for being there. It would not have happened without your consistent and heartfelt advocacy. And as I've said many times before, I'm so sorry for the losses that you and your families have endured that brought you to this advocacy. And I hope you find some comfort in knowing the difference that you have made by speaking out. I'm also grateful to the other 3 supervisors who voted to support the proposal. Tara Lawson-Remer, who just nominated me to the clerk board again, that passed, I believe, this week. Supervisor Joel Anderson and our newly elected supervisor, Paloma Aguirre. We already talked about the date that the jurisdiction goes into effect. And as I stated previously, both at the Board of Supervisors at the meeting and in meeting interviews, I think it should be our collective hope and goal that we rarely have to use this jurisdiction. That would be my hope, and I think we should all wish for that. Also this past month, I interviewed several new candidates to fill the clerk board out. We've had some missing members. We have a few more members to interview, and hopefully they will be appointed soon to fill these vacancies. And we've had excellent, strong applicants, including people with medical backgrounds, which I was very excited to interview, and I think we'll be very lucky if they are able to join us. And as I mentioned this week, the Board of Supervisors voted to approve both Dr. Brown and I for new 3-year terms, so you're stuck with me. That's all I have for tonight, and we can move on to item number 8, board member queries for our sheriff and probation liaisons. Did I miss them? Did I miss them? Okay. Okay, there it is. Nice. Well, they're on item number 8, correct? Okay.
Hello.
Introduce yourself. Yeah, yeah. Tell everyone your name, because I don't have it in my notes.
Yes. Anna, Diaz, Green, and I was probation.
Anna Diaz Peña.
Thank you.
Do we have questions for Anna tonight?
I do.
Yes, Dr. Brown.
If I may.
Use your mic, Dr. Brown, so people online can hear you.
I thought everybody could hear me because I have a.
Well, if they're online, they can't.
Okay, oh, thank you. Mr. Penny, thank you for coming. What would you say is the most difficult aspect of a probation officer's job while working in detention facility? What do you think is the most difficult part of the job?
Is this a personal opinion?
Yeah, it's personal or with the collaborative, difficult, determining, whatever.
I will say is staffing,
Staffing.
and resources. Outside resources.
Outside resource, meaning, give me an example.
And more programs.
Programs.
Mhm.
For
The youth, yes, the youth, yes.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you for that.
Any other questions?
Any other questions for Ms. Diaz Peña? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Treasurer.
Hi.
Sorry for looking back at my notes. Did you have anything to report back to us tonight?
No,
Sorry, I don't recall from last month, but
that's okay.
any questions for Mr. Treasurer tonight? Dr. Brown?
Sir, thank you for your service. Did you understand my question to Ms. Diaz-Peña?
I believe it did.
Okay, could you provide us what you think is the most? Specifically in, detention, but otherwise, what do you think is the most difficult?
It would just be personal opinion.
Well, I understand personal opinion.
I would just say probably how dangerous it is. That would probably be the thing that I think most about, because you're, generally you're extremely outnumbered, and, so I would just say just the danger.
So you're always, I guess this is personal opinion question again. So as a human being, you're always sort of excited, in fear. Is that something, maybe I shouldn't ask you those type of questions, are you too probing?
No, it's okay. I definitely wouldn't say excited. I would say, in fear, on edge, aware.
Okay.
It's just stressful. So over time, and I'm sure most people, in the business kind of agree with me. It's just you're in a constant state. So most people only deal with stress or stressful situations every once in a while. To have to do it daily, really takes a toll on it, so.
And you feel that you're always sort of like outnumbered, right?
Yeah, depending on where you are, yes, that's what I would basically say, so. Just again, the danger that comes with it, and I know you specifically talked about detentions, but I can feel like most people on patrol would say the same.
Thank you for that answer, it's my question.
Does anyone else have a question? I do, but I'm happy to let anyone else go first. Yeah.
I have
It's better to come Mondragon, and then we'll go back to Dr. Brown and kind of.
So I asked a question about, like drug testing and like, believe I emailed you for that. I was just wondering why a erratic or disturbed behavior would not trigger a drug test, a drug test.
Sorry,
For an individual that's in custody, like if, deputies saying that they're acting erratic or whatever type of, abnormal behavior, why that would not trigger a drug test? Could you share more Like, does it fall more on like them being handed off to medical? Like, what does that look like for the person that is incarcerated?
Yeah, so you kind of touched on it. It would be something that we probably hand it off to medical, and let medical know, hey, this is the behavior, not sure the person running the influence or not. And, I think I apologize, I don't remember exactly, but in the email response, there were different, categories and different ways that, the drug would go about. Some of them, especially intake, I think were voluntary, but I just don't remember the exact answer.
I don't know, I just kind of wanted to know more because I don't think that there's any like specific behavior that someone has if they were to consume some sort of drug, like I don't think it's like the same for every person. But maybe when we have more like the medical presence or expertise, we can ask more of that to better understand. I just don't, I don't know, I feel like there's more to it.
Yeah, I honestly wish I could answer better, but maybe somebody from medical side might be able to.
Oh, thank you. Dr. Brand, did you have another question?
I do, thank you. Accountability of fellow officers. I think I briefly touched on that last month. Do you, I know you have a law or something that requires you to intervene when you see an officer doing something, or doing something they shouldn't be doing. How well is that? Being monitored is the right question. Because you often hear us talking about how, bad they are, but it's like a percentage of the officers who do like those things that get the rest of you in bad light with us. So that's why I'm getting back to accountability. And stepping up and saying, hey, you represent me, my family. When you don't do the job right, so is this any kind of process of strengthening that? Or just accountability overall? I know there's a law, but are you all sensitive to that?
So the short answer is yes, and besides the law, there's the policy, but, I've done a lot throughout my career, I've talked to different, people, different community members, and just involved in a lot of things. And I always tell everybody the same thing, I can't speak for everyone, I can speak for myself and people that I talk to. Nobody wakes up and says, I wanna go to work and, I wanna get in trouble. I wanna make my job harder, I wanna make my day more stressful. So just like anybody in any profession, if you're at work and you see something that's going to get you in trouble, going to make your day worse, going to make it more stressful, just like anybody here on the board or anybody in the public, the overall majority of people would say something, do something, anything so that it doesn't happen. But some of the mechanisms that are in there are body worn camera reviews. So I know we talk a lot about in custody deaths and rightfully so, but every call that, let's say somebody's on, assuming that the camera was turned on, let's be honest, assuming that it's on here, or someone else is on, it can be reviewed, especially any type of use of force. It's mandatory that it gets reviewed. That's mandatory, and that goes through multiple levels. So it would go through the deputy sergeant, it would go through the lieutenant, it would go through the captain, and then it goes through a final, for lack of a better term, clearinghouse. A special unit, my unit that actually does that. So it's never mind the actual deputy or their partners that potentially might see it. You're going 4 different times of PWC being reviewed. So most of the time, besides the policy and the law, if you see something, especially as a supervisor, there's multiple opportunities to address it. And it may not rise to that level of crimes or anything like that. But you just say, maybe you could have talk to that person, I say, hey, maybe you could have done this different, even tactics, maybe you shouldn't have put yourself in that position. And that stuff happens, way more than most people understand. Okay?
Thank you for your service. Appreciate your time.
You're welcome, sir.
I have a question. This is a follow-up to the presentation received from our doctor and officer. If I have a family member who I think is having a mental health episode and I call 911, I get a sheriff, I'm in the sheriff's jurisdiction, and I say, I need psychiatric help. My loved one is having an episode, he's threatening others, he's threatening himself or herself. Can please send psychiatric help, please send PERTs. And there is not a first team available, it's always a team, right? And when a clinician or an officer doesn't ever come by themselves, it's always a team, is that correct?
Well, a clinician will go by themselves.
A clinician will go by themselves, right? So if there is not a PERT team available, then what?
Then just a deputy would go.
Just a deputy would show up, right? Okay.
I mean, it could be multiple deputies, but yes, if there's no clinician available, we would still respond to help.
And from the presentation, there are only 14 PERT teams?
Yeah, I think what they were saying is 14 clinicians, but basically it's 14 teams, yes.
Okay.
With the sheriffs.
Are there officers that are specifically PERT officers, or they're just officers that are paired with a clinician and they're a team?
You mean deputies or
I'm sorry,
officers?
deputies, yeah.
Yeah, so the deputies, we call them PERT deputy, and they go through even more training than.
Then everyone else who gets the 7 hours or 8 hours or something.
Yes, and, so that's who they ride with, that's, for lack of a better term, their partner. And so their shifts are always together, so like they talked about Sunday through Wednesday, let's say it's a 6 a.m. And if I was a PERT deputy, my clinician and myself, we ride together, we're a team. And we may not even respond, just the sheriff's call, we may not respond. Help the home or San Diego PD jurisdiction, it's collaborative with the county.
Okay.
But, so you could technically get someone from another agency to also respond to sheriff's jurisdiction.
You didn't know that. Would a PERT deputy show up without a clinician ever, or no, they would always show up as a team? I'm sorry I asked that already, but I guess I'm not understanding it. It's not your fault, it's my fault.
No, it's okay. So, if the clinician was working, they would show up with the clinician. If the clinician was, so for example, my PERT clinician was off or for vacation or sick.
Okay.
I would still go to the call, but if they were there, they would come with.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mendelson, I have one more, well, go ahead, it's in the same line of questioning.
Just real quick, how are your 14 PERT clinicians distributed throughout all your substations here in the county?
That I have no idea. PERT has a lot of say in, like he was talking about, collaboratively do it with the county as to where.
I'm just wondering, like, if you take an area, you know, like say Fall River up in the north part of the county, would they have PERT technicians always available?
Fall River may not always have them, but then there would be, so somebody from Vista or Valley Center or something. They're geographically.
Might it be by the number of calls we typically get for assistance?
It could be, and again, I
okay.
don't want to speak for them because I'm not sure how.
That's okay. This is the last thing before you go. Thank you for, I know, Ms. Federico Mondragon asked us a question last week, and then Brett emailed it to you and you responded in writing. It was a pretty lengthy response, which we appreciate. Wanted to make sure members of the public know that his response to her question regarding if people who are in custody and they're behaving erratically, they're automatically drug tested. It's online on the agenda. It's listed as attachment C. So if anyone wants to see his response, you can see it there. I would just ask, if you would please, I would like very much for the public's benefit for you to bring your answers to us verbally when you come back. So that is why, when you come and start, I always ask, did you have something for us from last month? I think it would be beneficial for the people who are here and the people who watch online to hear it from you as well. And it doesn't have to be as lengthy as what you provided to us in writing, because it was a very robust answer, which we appreciate, and they can read it online. But so next time, if you have a follow-up response to us, if you could bring it to the next meeting, I appreciate it.
Absolutely, sorry.
Thank you very much. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
That was the very item number 9, new business. Or meeting calendar. Is that for you or for me or?
We provided you with the calendar, you don't have it.
I know that.
Basically, what we have done is reserved this room from, for all of 2026 minus January and July, because they fall also right on holidays.
Holiday, yeah.
And we have this room reserved for the first Thursday of the month for the room for all of 2026.
Okay, so we need to approve that calendar. Do we need a motion? Okay, is there a motion to approve? Is there a second?
Second.
Is, call the roll, please.
Sorry, Kelly.
Yes.
Chairman?
Yeah.
Brown?
Is that what your microphone is? Is your microphone on? That's okay, just wanna make sure people at home can hear you.
Dr. Brown?
Yes.
Yes. Federico Mondragon?
Yes.
Mary is not present, Mr. Ware?
No. What?
Yes.
The motion passes, 5 yes, 1 not.
Good enough. Unfinished business, we'll move to, third board policy and procedure amendment. This was emailed around as part of an attachment to the CLERB agenda. We are adopting the same rules as the county board of supervisors, which we, for the most part, been, honoring here. And we're just making it more formalized because we didn't have the same rules of operation and decorum that we, as part of our rules and regulations previously. So if you attend a regular board of supervisors meeting, you should be pretty familiar with it. Again, it was an attachment and we are going to adopt them also as ours. So can I get a motion
So move.
and a second?
Second.
Okay, can you call the roll, please?
Chair Pintar?
Yes.
Vice Chair?
Yes.
Secretary Sano, yes. Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Mondragon? Yes. Mr. Ware?
Yes.
Motion passes. Yes.
And finally, we'll go to item number 10, board member comments. Is there any member of the board who wishes to make any comments tonight? Before we move into closed session, Ms. Federico Mondragon.
For the public comments that mentioned, like some concerns about probation. We have 2 today, that's an agenda comment, Right, would you be able to share to the public what they can do to report or be able to connect with where about their concerns?
Yes, I mean, it's like any other situation. I know in the past we've had issues with people and who can file a complaint and who can. It has to be someone that is willing to sign under penalty of perjury. It does not have to be necessarily firsthand, but it has to let us have the ability to request the records from the juvenile courts, similar to what we have to do with the cases that were brought forward to us. So we have to have enough information. So in the case of a youth in either the East Mesa or the Youth Detention Center, we would need to know some information, and particularly some information about dates and times at best, so that the court can properly review our request. Because we don't get to see the information before the judge of the juvenile court does. And so we're only allowed that information if the juvenile judge decides that it's within clerk's jurisdiction. Is that?
Can I just clarify, because I know this has come up in the past too, when maybe say a parent or family member wants to file a complaint on behalf of their someone's in one of the youth detention facilities. When they sign under penalty of perjury, that means they are relaying to us what they know. This is what I believe to be true. This is what I've been told by my loved one or, a witness. I don't want anyone to feel like if that in the end turns out to be not the case, as long as they are telling us what they believe to be true, that qualifies. That, I don't want anyone to be afraid of signing under penalty of perjury if it turns out that it wasn't true, they got information incorrect. I hope that makes sense and helps people feel like they can go ahead and file a complaint.
And I think it's important to note now that when CLERB opens an investigation on a juvenile, we are using a DOE name and a DOE number. There's not a public information. We are not going to release the parent or a family member or a community member that provides that information. It's on the aggrieved individual, the individual that is, has these allegations against one of the probation officers. And so that there is a little more, anonymity for the family now with the way we do the DOEs, and hopefully that will help. And we can get the records under a confidential juvenile court order, and it is specifically stated in that juvenile court order that we get that this information has to remain confidential, similar to all the other stuff we have. But it is really a tight order that the judge gives.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Yes, Dr. Brown and Aria. Yeah, Aria, because you should probably follow up to this, so please go ahead.
So my second, it's more of a comment. I was wondering, so we don't have like jurisdiction with like her, but I think it was really helpful to learn a lot about their history and where they're currently at. And I think all of us could agree some sort of that 70 clinicians, pretty low for, for serving the county, 40 schools. So I'm just wondering if maybe there's like a letter or, the board of supervisors that we can write, like they can do an analysis or something like that. I just wonder how we can support
Well, I was just gonna say, because I was thinking about this when they were making their report, that, and we have a nexus to make such a recommendation, because there are often times, and this is why I asked the question, when we're reading our cases and they say, I called, or someone called, the loved one called and asked for her, and said they were having a mental health episode or a psychiatric episode, and there was not her team available. So I think that is a good reason for us to be able to advocate for more teams.
Thank you, Chair.
I would just make sure that there's you make a request, or whether it's the staff to put together some type of letter, or a request for us to review this so that we can bring it back to the board, because it would be a request to the board of supervisors when they're working on budget issues, for CLERB to say that, we would like there to be a larger budget to include more clinicians.
So are you asking for a motion to request a letter for us to approve requesting staff return with a letter?
So move.
I don't know if we need one yet, just hang on a second. I'm gonna have to let Ellen tell it.
Hold on, sorry to be attorney downer, but under the rules for agendizing for the Brown Act is, there can be direction to staff by the board just to, have staff prepare a letter, given the comments to here tonight, bring it back, put it on for new business for next month's agenda. And then, The public can review the proposed letter, we provided an opportunity for comment to see if we missed anything. And then the board would move forward with having a letter sent to the board of supervisors.
So go ahead, Fred, and then
Before someone makes a motion, can I?
It's not a motion, we can't make a motion.
Or before there's a request, can I ask for more than 30 days? This might be one of those things, as long as we can get it to, the board of supervisors, usually right after the Christmas time is when they really start budget issues, and so that would give us enough time to really research this, for this project.
Okay, Ms. Federico Mondragon, do you wanna make the official request to staff?
Yes, I request that staff, follows up on a letter for, purchase order. Do we need to ask like? Yeah, whatever is feasible. What makes sense for them? Do we need to include the dates? How many days?
Well, I would have to do, we'd have to do some research to then go back to PERC, request some information from them, so that we can compare it with, the budget. And before I come back and be able to properly educate all of us on what that would mean.
I think as long as you don't request it within a certain time frame, you don't have to give dates.
Oh.
We're gonna go back in order, Mr. Ware.
Yeah, in your research, you will find, there's been probably about a year's worth of discussion between the role of the local crisis response team and PERC. That's been going back and forth.
That's right.
That, again, why we need a little bit more time, there's a lot of moving parts there.
Okay, well, the request is being made, we don't have a time frame on it, so we have time to get it worked out. All right, if that is the end of board comments, I'm going to ask Dr. Brown.
I just want to commend you for the work that you do and your commitment to this board and to this organization. I think you're doing a fantastic job.
Thank you, Dr. Brown, I can use that tonight.
Well, I appreciate it.
Second motion.
Thank you. I think I'm gonna need a vote. Just kidding, okay. With that, I will think it's a good place to end and ask our council to read us out of, open session and into closed session.
Thank you, board chair and members. On tonight's closed session agenda for your consideration, we have several items. We have conference with legal counsel, pending litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9. And they are the Clerk of Civil Service Appeals, clerk case number 22-027 Viesta, number 23-071 Hunt, and number 23-118 Joe 2301. And then 12B, we also have public employee discipline dismissal release, pursuant to Government Code Section 597, and we have 7 cases for summary hearing as more fully described in the agenda, and that concludes my read-in.
Thank you. The open session is adjourned and when we close session. Thank you everyone for being here.
Thank you, Tony.